The new Fast Finishers report looks like this. Those of you who are familiar with GG's reporting will recognise the boxes at the top from which users can select various filters to apply to the report content. I'll talk about those in a minute. Also, today and tomorrow buttons, track, drop down, as you'll be familiar with, clear and update buttons, and export to CSV. Now let's talk about the content of the report. So it's quite a busy looking report, and it's ordered by default by race time on the left hand side. We've then got the track, the horse in question, and then some information about the qualifying fast finisher run. So we've got fast finisher date, FF date, fast finisher course, FF course, fast finisher position, FF position. So Bring It On Boris was first. He won his race that day. Boudica Bay fourth that day. The FF race tempo is how the race was run on that fast finishing qualifying race. So in the case of this Chester race, in which Boudica Bay finished fourth, it was a fairly even tempo throughout, and off that even tempo Boudica Bay finished quite nicely. We'll talk about that in a second. Compare that with, let's say, As High Say, who ran in a race that was very fast early, even through the middle section, and slow late, where As High Say managed to win that day off a very fast early gallop. Okay, so that's race tempo. Race tempo is quite important, and we'll understand a bit more about why in a second. The runs since column does what it says on the tin. So in the case of Boudica Bay, again, Boudica Bay has run 6 times since this race. Now that may or may not mean that he's had a number of opportunities to reprise that fast finish since. What it essentially means is we just need to understand under what conditions the horse has been running in the interim. So I tend to look at the last 3 races, but sometimes it's relevant to look at to look further back. For example, if a horse is an all-weather specialist and it's had 4 runs on the turf where it's not run very well, then it's perfectly appropriate to look further back, to look to its all-weather form. So I wouldn't entirely discount these that have been off the track longer, or that have had more runs since their fast finisher run. But if they've been running under similar conditions and haven't been able to replicate this, then I'd be much more dismissive of that. We've then got the race finishing speed percent. And so this is kind of relates to the tempo in the final third of the race, the final fraction, the closing section. And in an even finishing race, it's going to be somewhere close to 100% usually. It depends on the par scores for the actual track. So for instance, at Southwell, where they finish slowly, 95% represents an even gallop against par, whereas at Wolverhampton, where they tend to finish a bit quicker than at Southwell, something around 100% represents even. So it's not a specific percentage. What you need to know is that the comments in the coloured blobs are correct, and then we're looking at relativity between these percentages here. So let's have a look at this. So we've got race finishing speed percent, FS percent is finishing speed percent, and then the horse finishing speed percent. So again, we'll use Boudica Bay at the top. The race finishing speed just shy of 98%. The horse finishing speed just shy of 101%. And the finishing speed percent difference was 3% in this case. Now this is it's not this number minus this number, it's this number divided by this number, or maybe the other way around. I need to work it out. So that's the finishing speed percent differential. In order to appear on this report, a horse must have a finishing speed difference of at least 2.5%. So you can see that Zabur Star is the lowest differential qualifier, and at the other end of the track, Swaffen Bulbeck is the highest finishing speed differential. Sectional upgrade is an interesting, in fact, arguably the most interesting figure on the report. When taken in isolation, which I don't recommend taking any of them in isolation, but if you wanted to look at just one number, it would probably be sectional upgrade. This essentially is a barometer of how inefficiently the horse ran in the race in question. In other words, how much more potential it has to run faster. In the case of Civil Law, we can see that it finished 6th in a race that was even through the most part and fast at the finish. He quickened well, but couldn't get close to the lead from wherever he was in the race. Got a big upgrade figure suggesting that he had plenty more to give there, and might be interesting off either a slightly faster early tempo or given a I don't want to say a better ride because I haven't seen the ride, but given a more optimal conditions, let's just say that. So anyway, these big number sectional upgrades are always worth a second glance. As with all data in all views, reports or tabs or whatever, we need to take things in the round rather than in isolation. But I would suggest that these two horses at the top here, Sanard and Civil Law, might be of interest. Sanard is a horse that's close to my heart. I've backed him to win a few quid a few times, and basically this is his setup, a mile at Newcastle. He is very capable of putting in a fast closing fraction, as he did 7 runs ago. He has run fast since then as well, so he's an interesting chap. I've also backed Civil Law and Van Dyke, as it happens. On the case is stronger than just their sectional upgrade. But what's interesting with all three of these is that the track they're running at tonight is the same as the track where they recorded their fast finish. So it's a straight mile in the case of Sanard, and indeed in the case of Van Dyke. Civil Law I think is 1.25 miles, so around the bend. But the conditions are the same, whereas with some of these others, we kind of have to take it on trust how convertible Wolverhampton form is to Newcastle form, or Wolverhampton form is to Lingfield form, in terms of the track layout and how the races are run. So personally, I do like when the form is directly comparable, and I particularly like it when it's this the Newcastle straight track, because I think that's 7 furlongs and a mile at Newcastle on the all-weather is unique for all-weather surfaces. They're the only ones that have that straight distance. So I think those can be more meaningful. Now these two probably get whacked tonight, of course, because that's the way these things go. But they're certainly interesting horses anyway. So I set my parameters. I tend to have any to 3 like this. And click the update button, and I've got a shorter list now. I've got Tarnimart, and Van Dyke is a perennial appearer on this report, mainly because he starts so slowly. Easy for me to say. There was a time at Newcastle he basically refused to race, which is obviously a concern. But so he's one for in-running punters with fast pictures, maybe, if you want to see if he gets out the stalls. But if he does get out the stalls without giving more than, let's say, 7 or 8 lengths away, he's actually got a bit of a chance to win, because he does finish with a rattle, and races on that straight track tend to suit him. Now, he's only actually run at Newcastle twice, and I think he's yet to win. I think he finished 2nd over 7, and then he absolutely, like I say, refused to race the other time over a mile. So it'd be very interesting to see which Van Dyke turns up tonight. But all three of those that I flagged here are prices 7-1, 7-1, and maybe about the same, although they were all a little bit bigger earlier. So I'm not betting 6-4 shots with this, but I'm betting horses that I think can return, can do something that they've done before, which may not be immediately obvious to the casual punter. And this sectional upgrade figure and these comparisons between today's race conditions and the fast finishing conditions is enough to give you a chance there. The other thing that I think is really important, which I'm not going to go into in detail here, is to look at the pace tab for today's race, and consider the tempo from the fast finishing race, and have a think about how likely this kind of pace setup is to reoccur, or to recur even, in today's race. So in Civil Law's race and in Sanad's race, we're kind of looking for them to go steady enough, not slowly, but just an even tempo through the first kind of 5 or 6 furlongs of the race, and then to quicken at the 2.5 to 2 furlong pole. So that would replicate what happened when these guys got these big upgrades, and it gives them the chance, perhaps in the case of Civil Law, if they went a bit quicker earlier, that would be even better. So we're looking to see how much early pace there is in these races in order to kind of guesstimate whether the situation will repeat itself. I hope that makes sense. I fear I've probably garbled it a little bit, but basically, if we want a horse to do something similar to what it did before, we want it to be given a situation that is similar to the situation when it did it in the first place. That's essentially the nub of it. One other thing to say on these, my own view at the moment is that all-weather tracks provide not exclusive opportunity, but probably the better opportunities to use these data, mainly because there are less holes in the data. Now, we only carry this information for the total performance data, the TPD tracks, which tend to be the Sky Sports Racing ones. So there are quite a few tracks that there still is not data available for. The Racing TV tracks are still sorting out their commercial business models, and hopefully the data will become available at some point. If and when it does, and if it's not unwieldy in terms of cost, we will look to carry that, and then I'll be delighted that we've got a full provision. I think it's embarrassing for racing, I'll say that, I think it's embarrassing for racing that so far down the sectional track we still have only a partial picture of what's going on. People talking about the general public not catching on to sectional timing. Well, how can they when there's only a partial picture? So we know these horses have gone fast. The caveat is that there are other horses in these races that we cannot yet know whether they went fast or not, because they were at a track for which sectional data has not been published. And I do hope that racing will get over its factionalism soon in order to sort this out, because it really is a little bit pathetic. Okay, soapbox away. This is an interesting report. I think it's one of those that I think you need to spend a little bit of time messing around with and getting to grips with. Don't expect too much too soon. Don't bet horses off this report on day one if you don't understand what's going on, because then you're just going to say bad things about it and actually it's your fault. So let's be, usual rules apply. Let's be mature and responsible about this. Let's just have a look at it, find horses that you think might be interesting, try and project what you think might happen with that horse in today's race, and then watch the race. You don't have to have a bet or have a 50p on it. Just see what happens, see if what this report suggested might happen, see if what the pace tab suggested might happen actually comes to pass, and improve your race reading and your pace understanding, run style understanding over time and through experience, rather than just trying to parachute yourself into expert territory on day one. That's only going to have one outcome, and it's a bad outcome. Okay, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get some fun from it, and I hope you get some big winners from it as well. Talking of big winners, I couldn't finish this video without mentioning these couple from the last couple of days. So Carmela Soprano was actually on my tracker from a race at Southall, not very far back. In fact, it may have been this run here. She ran at Nottingham on Sunday, and she won at 40-1, which was good. Except I backed her at 20-1 with 7 places because I was lily-livered. Faint heart never won fair maiden, apparently. Anyway, I wasn't unhappy to have a 20-1 winner, and braver souls would have had a 40-1 winner there. This Glasgow gal ran at Wolverhampton yesterday, as I'm recording this. She had miles away, by miles, the top sectional upgrade figure, a really big figure. She finished really fast in that race, and they went steady again yesterday, and she was well placed to quicken, and she won by nearly 4 lengths at 13-2 on her first run since. You see the 0 there. So of course this doesn't happen every day, but these are the kind of things that you can't really know about a race without this sort of intel. You know, like, our eyes can tell us so much, we can perceive so much, but this is the kind of atomic detail and scientifically supported, or at least chronologically supported, that is going to help us find some good winners. So yep, that's enough for this one. Matt Bisogno saying thank you very much for watching, back some good winners, and goodbye for now.